so many people are fixated on what they want to have and what they want to do, as opposed to who they need to become in order to do the thing that then will produce the have.
Welcome to Lessons in Leverage, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of success. We'll help you unlock the secrets of leverage so you can amplify your impact in the world. Here is your host, Spencer Lowe.
Welcome back to another episode of Lessons in Leverage. I'm excited to be joined today by a good friend of mine, Brian Adamson. Brian is an awesome guy that I met actually at a conference down in Florida. We were both there at Fund Launch Live looking at some different ways we could grow our businesses and how you can use funds. And Brian really impressed me. I'd met him in the hallway. We ended up spending a long time talking. And so I wanted to invite him on the podcast to share some of his experience and lessons with the audience. So, Brian, he actually is a seasoned real estate investor, and he has over 15 years experience, having successfully completed more than 100 fix and flip deals. And he currently owns over 100 commercial multifamily units. So he's been very successful in real estate. But beyond that, one of the things I really liked and connected with Brian was that on the sort of philanthropy and the give back side, and on the side of purpose and fulfillment, I really admired what he's been doing there. So he's a mentor, a philanthropist, a speaker, and he left corporate America at age 35 to pursue his passion full time. And so he founded this group called the BBR Education Group, and he empowers students globally to build 6- and 7-figure real estate businesses in their first year. And he does that by showing them how to use other people's money. So Brian, thank you, my friend, for taking time to come on the show.
Sir, thanks for having me, Spence.
So I want to go back and dive into your story a little bit more. You're 35, you're in corporate America, and I think a lot of people start out there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with starting out there and kind of following more of the traditional path, more of the predictable path. What was it that opened your eyes? Tell me about that moment where you started to go, okay, maybe there's something more. Maybe I could do entrepreneurship. Maybe I could do real estate. What opened your eyes to that? Tell me about that transition.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a little bit different than most people in the sense that I knew from the age 12 I was going to be a money guy, right? Means something way different to me today at 40 than it did then. But although my parents were blue collar, my dad was a firefighter for the city of Detroit for 30 years, and my mom was a cashier at the grocery store for 25 years. They instilled in me work ethic. And they also instilled in me their belief system, which was go to work for 30 years as they did, retire, maybe have a pension, right? That thing was still in existence back then. But I quickly identified that while that may have been part of my story, that it wasn't going to be all of my story. And so, I kind of was always open-minded to having a job, but looking for entrepreneurial things to do in tandem with that job. And so while I was in college back in 2006, a buddy of mine was flipping houses. I didn't know what any of that meant, but he was like, look, man, if you want to get in, like these buyers need help with the down payment to buy the home from me when I renovate it. So if you want to, gift them the money to cover their down payment, when I flip the house, I'll give you a return on your investment. So I started out as a de facto private lender, leveraging my refund checks in college. And then that was 2006 and 7. I started buying rental properties with stated income loans as well. But then I was graduating in 2007 and things were starting to shift in the economy, but I was uneducated. I didn't know what that meant. But it scared me enough to think I need to at least go get a job, right? So I got out of college, I went to school for industrial engineering, and then I went to work for a plastics company, and I was an operations manager there, and I did that for like 10 years while still growing my real estate business in tandem in corporate America. And then it got to a point where it was sheer opportunity cost. It was like I'm actually making my annual salary on a monthly basis, and, nothing's keeping me here outside of the perceived comfort that I got a job, you know what I mean? But when you talk about leverage, right, the topic of tonight, I was literally losing money from being at work.
Yeah, that's
it was time to go.
There. That's a big eye opener to realize, like, the thing I'm doing for security is actually costing me so much more than it's helping me.
Yeah, that was a big revelation for me, Spence.
And so I love that you did that. There's a lot of different opinions out there. There's people that are like, oh, go all in, do it on the side, start with entrepreneurship, wait till later in your career. There's a lot of different kind of opinions. I love this perspective that you were able to build it on the side, grow it, and get to the point where quitting the job was obvious. And that made the most sense. So then once you quit your job, how did that change things for you? At that time, were you still operating by yourself? Were you starting to build a team? What started to shift so that you could scale that and grow what you were doing?
Yeah, I had a very small team during that time. but a very talented team though. And I had people on my team who were similar in that they were doing well in corporate America, were directors and executives, but they were trying to look for a way out. And so I provided an opportunity for them to even have their first step into full-time entrepreneurship away from corporate. So I had super talented people on my team. And, quickly after I stopped working in corporate America, we also started our international mentorship program. And that thing started to scale like really quick. And, we had to go back and try to put infrastructure in place because the thing was scaling so fast, to be honest. And, growth spurts and difficult, I guess, good problems to have, so to speak. But yeah, it started out with a small team. And then I would say about 3 years later, it really started to scale as more complexities were added. Like right now, I coach coaches and consultants on how to scale their businesses, as well as coach real estate investors on how to scale their businesses. And then I also have a community called Believers in Business, where I'm teaching entrepreneurs how to get stronger in their faith, their fitness, their finance, and their freedom. And then obviously also have my commercial multifamily portfolio. So a lot more complexities into the business now. And so we've grown quite a bit in the last 5 years.
As that's happened, as that growth has happened, tell me about some of those key moments or key decisions. Did it all stay in one company? Did you break it out? Did you build a few concurrent companies? Do you have people working across the companies to get efficiency from that? Is it, you have certain things that are segregated out? Just tell me about that progression from kind of, you started out just doing the lending, then moving into actually doing your own real estate, growing that to the point where then that became your full-time business. Tell me about some of those key moments as that got bigger and more complex, and what were some of the decisions you had to make?
Yeah, that's a great point. So initially, you start outsourcing almost everything that you possibly can, right? So, I brought in teams of realtors, teams of contractors, teams of project managers, right? On the real estate side. On the education side, I tried to kind of promote from within. So organically, because I had some students that came in that really got a good footing into kind of our practices, our methodologies and whatnot, they end up becoming coaches inside of the real estate program, which allowed me then more time to go and market the business, scale the business through sales, and have to do less coaching in some capacity, right? So I promoted within in that regard. And then I've got, administrators who I've been able to not only be my personal administrator, but then also cover admin needs across the various coaching programs. So I've been able to kind of use people in a multifaceted way, but then you also reach that point where you realize that some of them are overutilized. And then at that point, we had to go out and start bringing in other specificities. So for instance, one of my original admins, she was very good at marketing. So I didn't have to outsource that. I was able to do all of that in-house. Whereas now we have a full-blown marketing contractor that we brought in. That's essentially like a partner. They butted their business into ours, and they do everything as far as our marketing arm now. As far as sales, we do a lot of that stuff in-house because it's just such a sensitive area. I've tried outsourcing sales in the past, and sometimes sales guy get commission on the breath. He may overpromise things that aren't being sold, right? And you don't find that out until you get into the fulfillment aspect. So I try to keep sales as vertically integrated as possible and handle that piece internally as much as we can. I know a day is coming where we're gonna scale again, and I'm gonna have to find somebody that I trust that can do it from the outside. But right now, we've been very, very blessed in the sense that we've had people who we've been able to mold into other roles as the business needs have changed.
That's awesome. And so when you think about leverage, there's a few concepts that are coming out here. One is this idea that under high growth periods, you look to outsource and leverage experts from outside the company that can increase your capacity quickly. And then over time, you're teaching, building, and growing people internally to get some of that labor leverage that you retain and that can help scale the business. And it sounds like you actually have a few administrative staff that are kind of operating above the different businesses, and then you have some people that are more focused on the specific businesses. So the team is evolved to where you're operating across them, and you maybe have some admin support operating across them, but you have certain people that are just focused on each of those businesses.
100%. 100%.
Awesome. So how do you think about kind of your time now as you've got multiple businesses, you're trying to grow them? How do you think about getting the most out of your time and getting bigger results when you've got lots of different demands and priorities between these different units?
In the last 6 months, I think I've had the biggest revelation of who, not how, right? It's a great book. If anyone hasn't read it, I suggest that they go out and read it. But the book it basically talks about, as entrepreneurs and as business owners, oftentimes we focus on the how things need to get done instead of the who that's doing the how. And so now I've been more consciously aware and focused on finding the right who's, because the more that I find the right who's, then the more that I can really start eliminating myself from certain tasks throughout the day and whatnot, which then I can get my highest leverage, which is the things that I'm naturally best at and gifted at as the key person of influence of my companies. And, I can be doing a lot more outside of the business instead of inside the business. So, now that I've been able to kind of do that in real time, honestly, I just had to have a conversation last week with my EA. I'm moving in a different direction, right? Because it's just another who. It's nothing personal, but I've identified that over this year time, we need a different who in that spot based off of where I see the next 12 months going. And so it as much as I possibly can, I've been focusing on the peripheral of finding more people, building the right relationships for internal support, one, but then also those relationships that could continue to help grow the business in a very organic way.
Do you outsource things outside of the U.S., or are you working exclusively with U.S.-based people? What does your kind of labor mix look like?
Yeah, so my social media team, right now I've got someone in Bangladesh that's doing my SEO stuff. I've got my social media manager. She's been with us almost 4 years now in multiple roles. She is in the Philippines. I've had several great associates in the Philippines, Bangladesh as well. I've outsourced a lot of design and graphic stuff in the Bangladesh market for some years now. But a lot of the other, and I don't even want to say key pieces to diminish those, but I would say like our administrative team is US based, sales, marketing, coaching, all those things are US based.
Yeah, that's something that I've been pushing on in different ways in our businesses that I think has been really powerful, is just the amount of talent in the Philippines. And there's other places. We've been building a lot in the Philippines recently, just around being able to add team members with a wide variety of skill sets that play a bigger role than I have in the past. I think there's the common, like, I can outsource a VA, just like a simple assistant or something, maybe a little design work. But we've been pushing on that and finding some really key pieces for us that have been doing some great work. I think there's so much leverage in that. And so it's not a coincidence that you got some of those people there. And of course, there's certain strategic roles you got to keep, onshore. So I want to dive a little bit into each business, talk a little bit about some of the learnings and some of the ways that you're using leverage in each one. So when you think about the commercial real estate side, talk to me about, what goes into that, because selfishly, that's an area that I'd love to be more involved in. I'm dying as I continue to grow to make my full-time job real estate for all of the tax advantages and benefits and leverage I can get out of that. And that means I've got to actually spend a majority of my time on real estate someday in the future. And when I look at it, I'm like, I don't think it makes sense for me coming in from where I'm coming in to just go into like single family homes and small stuff. So tell me about how does one build and gain leverage in commercial real estate, and what does that look like?
So this is going to be very anticlimactic for a real estate coach to say, okay? Real estate is probably the biggest distraction I have in my life.
Tell me more.
It is the area where my impact is least felt because I'm the furthest away from the end result. And when I say that, I mean this. So like today, for instance, I spend about 6 to 8 hours a month on my portfolio. Okay. If anybody believes that real estate is a passive investment, you believe wrong. I just want to let you know. There's nothing passive about successfully investing in real estate. Okay.
There's literally nothing passive. If you can put that money in the S&P 500, you still are going to have to make decisions about, do I cash something out? Do I not? Like there's even in the most passive investment, there's a little bit of effort. So there's always something, but yeah, I'm with you. Real estate.
That's right. That's right. Man, we talking, we going to keep it real with the audience tonight. And so, if you invest as a private investor, that's about as passive as it gets, considering that you just got to open up your email and see what the results were. But if in terms of owning property, right, as a cash flow investor or whatever your modus operandi is, It's just not passive. And so you have to manage managers. And before you manage managers, you got to hire managers. So I think one of the most critical components to it all is, one, you becoming proficient and expert enough to identify in others what you need and what you don't need, right? Because if not, you're at the behest of people, because once you spend that money to the tune of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, you got that capital outlay. Now you're at the mercy of property management companies, contractors, project managers, and all these people to tell you what they think is best. You need to have a working understanding of what you believe is best, and then interview and hire and acquire those people to help galvanize around your vision, not their vision, right? Because their vision is totally different than what your vision is, because your goals are different. So it's first you getting clear on what your why is, what your strategy is, and then interview and be able to ask people very specific questions regarding your business model to see if what their business model does fits your business model. Okay. And then saying all of that, after you actually go through and successfully do that piece, then you're still at the behest of everybody doing what they're supposed to do with respects to marketing, lease up, fulfillment, all these things with your portfolio to make sure that it actually produces income for you on a month in and month out basis.
So on the commercial side, what type of commercial are you in? Is this all, are you doing a wide variety? You got stuff that's in storage and, retail, and what does that look like? And how do you think about your portfolio? Do you try to diversify across commercial? Are you, what does your strategy look like? How do you maximize that?
Yeah. So I actually started buying commercial multifamily in 2020, late 2020. Okay. So about almost 4 years now. At the time in which I started, COVID had just happened, and everybody that owned A-class, B-class stuff, they were hosed because people stopped paying their rent, right? And then they put the rent moratorium in place. Well, after the rent moratorium was lifted, as they started to sporadically do that throughout the nation, in my particular market, it was taking 6 to 8 months to evict people. So at that time, we were acquiring like value add, C-class, like affordable housing area properties, right?
For listeners who don't know, A-class, B-class, C-class, what does that mean?
Yeah. So A-class would be like, you would almost, I'll say for simplicity terms, like luxury. Okay. Then your B-class will be your upper middle class, I would say, working class folks. And then C-class would be like workforce, and then, anything under that is just, it gets a little rougher, right? But so that's kind of the classism when we're talking specifically in commercial multifamily. And so I targeted the C-class area particularly because I knew that we had a higher propensity to use Section 8 or subsidized rents in that area. So my philosophy was, the reason why the A and B class guys and gals got hosed during that time was because they had no backing for when people were told that they didn't have to pay their rent. Well, those that flew under the radar during COVID that continued to get paid were the people who had subsidized rents. The government kept paying. The government never stopped paying for their tenants. And so I was like, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I at least want like a tranche of affordable housing in my portfolio. Even if I start to do B and A class stuff, in this current climate, I want to make sure that I'm backing myself as much as possible, that even if the tenant doesn't pay, I'm getting as many subsidized rents. So that's what we did. We went out and bought like 16 units, 6 units, 40 units, 20 units. So I got a pretty good mix up to 40 units, but it's all targeted in that affordable housing space.
And is that the whole portfolio right now is in the affordable housing?
It is. Yeah.
Awesome. And then with that being said, how did you go about acquiring those properties? Did you raise capital from others? Did you self-fund it? Did you, what kind of strategies should people know about if they're trying to go, build a portfolio like that?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to tell everybody is that nobody has a money problem, only a knowledge problem. Mm. If you can actually go out in the marketplace, right, and establish yourself as an expert, there is far more money on the sidelines that's waiting to participate in the deal than there are competent operators and opportunities. So one of the biggest problems is that people are on the sidelines thinking, man, I just don't have enough yet. And it's like, Yeah, you're right. You don't have enough yet, but it's not money that you don't have enough of. It's the knowledge that you don't have enough of. Because a fool and his money shall soon depart, right? So even though you have the money, one of the biggest challenges I see for many people is that they think because they have the money that that's the power, but that's really not the power, because whatever you did in whatever area of focus to allow you to build up several $100,000, even a couple $1,000,000, you were proficient at. So to think that by default, you're not going to take this capital, deploy it in this thing called real estate and be successful without getting any kind of knowledge and wherewithal is ignorant, honestly, right? And ignorance is expensive. So the first thing I'll tell everybody is that you just got to you got to become proficient and have a good enough working knowledge about what you're supposed to be doing in the market. Secondly, once you do that, you can do a myriad of different things. So I bought buildings where I raised all private money, for instance, for say 8%, right? And I paid my investors an 8% return for 12 months. And then at the end of those 12 months, I did a cash out refinance and refinanced the building into 30-year debt, paid them back their principal because they made their 8% annual on a monthly basis. And then I kept full ownership of the building thereafter. I've had other situations where I use a combination of debt and equity. So debt being, I will go to an asset-based lender or to a bank. I would get them to fund, say, 75% of the deal. I'll go raise the extra 25%, and then I'll bring those partners in. And the way that I do some of my deals, Spence, is I'll open it up to 50% for the limited partners and 50% for the general partners. Okay. So the general partner side is like myself, the deal finder, the operator. I'm the guy that make everything happen. The 50% for the limited partners are simply private investors. So I'll bring them in. Now, some people do it differently than I do. Some people will bring their limited partners in for a short period of time. After they go through the stabilization and refi, they get them their money back, and then they're out of the deal. For me, I look at it like if my LPs took a risk on me in the beginning, then I'm going to do the refi, get you your money back in a premium, and then let's stay in the deal long term together, and let's just go do more of them. So I feel like rewarding my equity partners from allowing them to stay in. And then, because most of the guys, I mean, if you got that kind of disposable cash laying around, it's because you need a tax break. So, like, for me to bring them in short term, refi them out, it doesn't really give them the long-term depreciation and all the other tax incentives that they're trying to capture by investing in an asset of that size.
It makes sense. So when you look at the kind of commercial real estate side, you said that's the biggest distraction. What's your hopes for that? Is that something that you're trying to just grow slowly over time? Is that something you're trying to blow up? When you think about allocating your focus between these different businesses, how do you view that piece?
Yeah. So I was being a little bit facetious when I said that, and I don't want to turn the viewer completely off from investing in real estate. Okay. But when I say that, I mean this. Based on the amount of money that I make investing in real estate and the amount of money that I make doing some other things, it's just easier money to make than investing in real estate. You know what I mean? Because I have far more impact, influence, and control over the outcome in other settings in which I make money, as opposed to in the real estate side, I'm heavily dependent upon a lot of other things that have to go into my favor. For instance, I have no control over the fact that I bought a 6-unit building whose taxes was $6,800, that the millage rates became uncapped and went up to $15,000. Now, when we underwrite the deals, we underwrite them with the expectation that when the reevaluation happens, the taxes are going to go up, but not triple in a calendar year, right? Now, fortunately, I know a former judge who is now doing tax appeals that's on my team that's doing property tax appeals on my properties. But guess what, Spence? I got to email this guy. I got to talk to him. I got to send him all kind of data. I got to pull records. It's work. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to poo-poo on real estate investing, but I do. I mean, for me personally, it's just one of the biggest distractions that I have. Although I'm only putting 8 to 10 hours a month in it on a bad month, but it's still, you know what I'm saying, man. It's like when you had that moment, when you had that moment of reprieve, you kind of just like, you want to just, and it's like, oh, that real estate, got to go do something over there,
Yeah, there's always something else to do. And the thing with real estate too is that so much of the benefit of it long term is dispersed across many things. So in other words, like the reason real estate is so valuable is because you're getting the appreciation, you're getting the tax benefit through depreciation, you're getting some amount of cash flow, per month. But it's not like other big money making or big wealth building activities in that you're seeing a lot of that cash come in the door. It's like you're playing this big game and your net worth on paper may be going up pretty steadily.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of scale to get to a similar amount of wealth. Like you said, that if you're in other service-based businesses or other things, you're going to see that cash a lot sooner and maybe easier. And so that's something to balance out. Well, tell me about that side of the business then. So on the, one of the other units, you're doing consulting, coaching, speaking. Tell me about that business unit and what you're seeing there.
Oh, I love that business. I love all those businesses, particularly because I guess when I look at it, all 4 of my businesses were birthed out of my own life experiences, which is kind of cool. I didn't have to go think of a business. You know what I mean? Like the business was birthed just out of sheer creativity of things that I've already done that now I can help other people do. So outside of the application of learning real estate, the rest of it was like birthed out of just my own life experiences and my successes and failures and being able to help people bypass my failures to have more success. And so that's the thing that brings me most joy. I get fed from feeding, right? That's one of my guilty pleasures. And so like to be able to take my knowledge, give it to someone else and see them go build the life that they want with it is nothing more amazing to me in life than that, bro. It just isn't. It legitimately doesn't feel like work. And to even take it a step further, I only work with clients that I will work with for free. Mm-hmm. Although our services are tens of thousands of dollars, I mean, we've got programs that go up to $100,000, but if I wouldn't sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, I wouldn't take a check from you. Because there's going to come a point in time where you're going to need something from me that is outside of the scope of this agreement and this scope of work, that I don't want to have to think about invoicing you when that time comes. I just want to be able to set up the call and hop on and help you as much as I possibly can.
That's a great mindset. I like that. So when you're working with these business owners, entrepreneurs, what do you see as some of those key roadblocks that you have to help coach them through that help unlock more leverage for them?
Helping them to become the person to do the thing. I think a lot of people are so fixated on, we met one in Florida actually at that conference, but so many people are fixated on what they want to have and what they want to do, as opposed to who they need to become in order to do the thing that then will produce the have. And so just getting people kind of out of their own way and get them to be, less focused on the outcome of an investment or the investment or whatever, and get them more focused on the outcome of investing in themselves to become the person that they need to become. Because the truth is, you can teach tactics and strategy. If the essence of the person hasn't changed, eventually whatever you showed them and whatever they're doing is going to crash and burn, right? So if you got poor money management habits, I don't care how much of it you make, you're never going to keep any. If you have, bad addictions that are strongholds that constantly keep you distracted, then you're going to be inconsistent in the marketplace. Like if you got a horrible marriage at home, that's going to be a constant distraction for you. So it's like you can't, as much as we try to silo our lives, the truth is the essence of who we are shows itself in every aspect of our life, which is why that's the most important thing that we need to focus on if we want to be successful in the marketplace. So that's the piece that I have to hone in most with people, is get them to slow down on the scoreboard and let's focus on you becoming a person that can keep putting up points.
I love that. That's awesome. So that kind of transitions nicely into the foundation side and giving back. What got you started there? And what are some of the things you're focused on in terms of trying to help kids that come from kind of underprivileged backgrounds to be able to learn these skills?
Yeah. This is funny. I don't think I've ever said this before. So my mom took me to church like when I was a kid, my whole life, right? And I stopped at like 13. I was like, it's hot. I go to sleep all the time. Like, I just eat candy. I want to stay home with dad, watch football, right? I later found my way back into the church as a late troubled teen. But when I was there, the coolest part of the service for me was to walk around and like put the money into the storehouse, the little church thing that they rolled around. I don't know why, Spence, but I guess God just put that in me. Like I've always just so I used to love to put my dollar in there. And as years passed, that dollar continued to grow. And it's one of the most favorite things I do with money is when I get it, is give it. Like I love honoring God with, I believe it all comes from him. I love honoring him with my first fruits and beyond. And then I just love helping people. You know, when you go and you travel a lot, as I do, like when you go and you stay at a hotel and you give a cleaning lady a 20 or 100 and you see what impact, I've had people cry from just that small gesture, something that we sit on a bar or we don't even think about that type of thing, you know, or you go to these countries like the DR and you tip somebody $20 and you didn't realize that changed their family's week, their entire week, that money did. So like to be in a position to just help people freely, it's just nothing more gratifying than it, man.
Yeah, man. Giving back is a huge part of it, and it's part of becoming the person that can have the things. It's part of what you were just describing beforehand. It's just part of becoming the person that then will attract into your life more and more. So I love that, man. So tell me about, you know, with everything you've accomplished, you know, you're looking at technology, it's evolving. AI is kind of infiltrating all business. Is there anything going on with AI that you're excited about, worried about? Is it helping you in business? Is it disrupting your business? What are you seeing in terms of AI and how that is either a form of leverage for you or a disruption?
So a lot of guys in my space, in the coaching space specifically, are concerned, right? And I guess to some degree is warranted. I feel like, though, what AI won't have is the essence of Brian Adamson.
Mm.
So maybe some copy sounds similar. Maybe I think that's the biggest piece, right? Is that people can start to steal your copy easier and all these things. But when I show up on video, when I show up in a room, the essence of who I am can't be replicated. And so I'm never worried about anything being taken from me in that regard. I do, however, find a lot of benefit to it with tools like ManyChat, with like tools that can expedite things that I would have normally hired a VA to do that would be manual, like talking to 1,000 people in the DMs. You know what I mean? That's a task that can now be handled through AI. I see a lot of benefits of it in the coaching space to expedite, like I said, a lot of manual tasks that we would normally outsource to a VA. I think we could now, you know, do those things and even do them more efficiently with the use of AI.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was just watching the keynote from Apple, and they're going to integrate it even more deeply into our phones, and I'm pretty excited about where it's all going. But yeah, it's going to be disruptive. There's certainly going to be things that disrupts and changes, and I agree with you. I think there's plenty of value in who we are still as humans.
Yes,
you know, it's like
yes, sir.
it will diminish the value of proprietary knowledge because all knowledge will be more easily accessible, but it won't have experience. Like it can talk like it has experience, but it won't have experience, at least not yet. And so there's so much behind that I think is really powerful, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Well, Brian, anything that you want to leave with the audience, any final message that you think would be especially powerful or important? And that if anybody wants to connect with you, maybe they're interested in working deals with you on the real estate side, or they'd like to have you come speak or do some coaching. What would you leave the audience with, and then how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, two things I love to leave the audience with, right? In the spirit of leverage, which is the premise of this platform, my highest form of leverage has been mentorship. Like nothing has changed my life more since when I got my first mentor in 2015. And so, you know, Warren Buffett said that it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from the mistakes of others. There's no better shortcut. If you're looking for a proverbial shortcut, there's no better one than going to find someone that you can focus on replicating their success and not their failures, right? And so I just highly recommend, in a form of leverage, that everyone goes out and finds someone that, you know, you align with morally, ethically, and then also has the success that you want, and leverage them for that reason, right? There's no excuse for anybody to be out here beating their head against the wall in today's age with partnerships and technology and information is so prevalent as it was not when I started, that just make your life a little bit easier. The work is still hard anyway, and so don't make it any harder. The other piece is for those that may have been in a situation that I was in corporate America, stuck, making good money, but still unfulfilled, spending more time buying stuff to try to justify gratification instead of truly being gratified in your heart based on your contribution to society. I just highly recommend that. Take some time to get still to figure out, like, what were you put here to do? What were you created to do? Like, we all have gifts, and those gifts are to deploy into our purpose. Take some time and spend to figure that out for yourself, because until you do that, you're never going to feel fulfilled. And no amount of money would ever do that for you. I've been rich and miserable. I already tried it. Like, until you're doing something that's truly fulfilling, you're never going to be fulfilled. And by spending money on things that are counterfeit to help fill that void are going to continue to keep you stuck in this rat race and this cycle of being in an environment that you choose not to be in anymore. So those are my 2 takeaways. And then everybody, you guys can find me at Brian Adamson Official on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere else. I love to connect with you. And if I can help you in any kind of way, I will.
Awesome. Brian, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Hey, before you go, I have a small request. Our mission is to empower as many people as possible to maximize their potential through the power of leverage. Could you help us in this mission by leaving a review on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube? And if you know just one person who would benefit from today's episode, would you please share it with them? Your support means the world to us, and we are thrilled to have you in the community. Thank you for being a part of our journey and helping us grow. You can find show notes for today's show and past shows at lessonsinleverage.com, which also has links to connect with me personally and connect with our various podcast channels across your favorite social networks. A big thanks to Solve.cloud, who sponsored this episode. They're a group of expert consultants that help SaaS and financial services companies to implement, optimize, and manage Salesforce.com. They can help you with custom integration solutions and are helping customers to implement some of the most important generative AI technologies. You can find them at solved.cloud. That's SOLVD.cloud is the URL. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.